Hi folks, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. As you can see, I'm back out in the gazebo for now, and I'm thankful that I can be out here. And I'm thankful because of how cool it is here, even under our trees. As I've shared before, the canopy that the maple tree provides our property. It's not a big piece of property. It's not, it's a 1/4 acre, and the house takes up a little portion of that. And yet we have sunny spots. So we're trying to place plants here and there where the sun gravitates. We're trying to do all that stuff. And then in some days when it's so hot, those plants that love the heat are just like they're so thirsty. This morning I was listening to Danny from Deep South Homestead. He and his wife Wanda I listen to quite frequently. They have a lot of knowledge in how to grow food, and I listen to other YouTubers as well. But what I like about him is his genuine spirit, the truth in what he shares, and honesty in the fact that whatever we do this year might not work next year, or what we did last year might not work this year. And it's kind of refreshing because that does happen in life, never mind just our plants and so forth. Yesterday I didn't say come on here and do anything because we had our grandsons here. It was really nice to have them here because they got to spend time with their grandfather, and it was kind of like a delayed Father's Day with them, and they wanted to come over. And when they got here, of course the grandkids were expecting Grandpa to be here, but drove in. The older one said to his mom, "Grandpa's not here." And she asked him why he thought that. He goes, "His car's not here." Because he's 5 years old, and he has learned whose car belongs to who. So she had to explain, no, Grandpa is here. His car is being fixed. He was reassured when he saw his grandfather. We treasure these boys and our daughters, and so it's just kind of nice to see how a lot of what they learn is from what we teach them, what they already know. Okay, he knows what kind of vehicle we drive. He knows what our house looks like. He knows where we keep things in the yard for the kids. Our children have memories that are being learned through how we behave and where everything is at. So every time we change things up, it can be so confusing for them, and they don't understand. And as simple as his grandfather's truck not being here, he remembered. And that should remind us, it actually brings into focus more of how our words, how our actions, and our behaviors are towards the little ones, but also to those around. As I listened to Danny talk this morning about how horribly hot it is in his area, he's trying to keep his crops growing. It's just him and his wife, and they have far more growing than I do, but a lot of what they're growing, some of it's not coming to fruition at all. But he has a community of others who they can work together with. And will that always work for everybody? Not necessarily. But I think what works best for us, and he kind of spoke on this, about how as a community of believers, when we do for one another, God blesses all of us. Those were not his exact words, but that was part of the take I got from it. Today's sharing on his end was just such a refreshing viewpoint that I really enjoyed listening to. You should check him out. I will link his page down below. Now, yes, I do share other Christian believers on my YouTube, and I'm new at this. And being new, a lot of people have been very cautious about how they share certain things because they've been reprimanded or what's not allowed. And this is why I'm going to be building my channel on 2 other venues, and probably soon. And I'll still keep it here until they say my faith is not allowed, because I will shout it from the rooftop that Jesus Christ is Lord. I look at what I have grown this year. I'm working really hard. When the rain came in over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I actually thought, oh, this is going to be great. I get to do the work inside, and God will fill up the rain barrels. The weather did not produce the rain that I was expecting. Now, our rain barrels are pretty full, but when I came out to water plants yesterday, they weren't up to the top like they had been after the last rainfall, a few weeks back. And I'm like, okay, I got to be really smart about how we use this water. Plus, I think I've shared in past videos, I've got these little tomatoes growing up everywhere. These are tomatoes that, I think they came from seeds that may have been in our compost, because I never seed saved before, and I'm seed saving now. And that's the only thing I can think of, is that, some tomatoes may have gone bad or something like that, so I might have thrown them out there. So we use a lot of compost. How I do my gardens, because this is all I have, I fill the bed, if it's a raised bed, a new one, I fill it with cardboard, because we order a lot of things and we don't go to the grocery store much. We do, but not as much. Then I covered it with leaves, because we had been raking and stuff, and I still have a pile of leaves. And to me, it's really awesome because it's already starting to mulch down. If you don't do the top layer, you go under, there's mulch. So I put that on there. My thought process is that this is what God gave me. I can't afford tons and tons of soil from the garden centers in the farms. So that's how I'm doing it. And then I put on my compost. And we have quite a bit, because we had some raised beds, and there's a lot of stuff in there too. Excuse me. And then I take the soil that we did buy, the nutrients and stuff, but we also have other nutrients we might put in there. We're not doing a lot of things that others might. I'm not putting any chemical stuff in there. But I've seen what God has done. A lot of our stuff is coming up, and I'm like, this is so exciting. Some of my stuff is not coming up. And the tomatoes that I started to talk to you about, I've got tons of them. I started out with 20 that I was growing from, maybe 25, 30, that I was growing from seeds and from starts. And then as I've gone along, I've been finding tomatoes in with my thyme, in with my rosemary, in with my peas, in with everything. And my husband says, this is ridiculous. We don't need this many tomatoes. I said, but don't throw them out. He goes, Laura, what are you going to do with all these tomatoes? And if you've heard some of my other videos, and one of them I shared that I told him it'll be salsa. He doesn't like salsa. But chopped tomatoes that I can use in stir fries. But I can also make tomato sauce. Tomatoes are something wonderful. But it's not the only vegetable either of us really want on our plate every single night. So I told him, I said, well, I think they're backups. I said, I'm not going to throw away what God has given me. And yeah, most people might, this is just too much. I can't do that. To me, it's like, if God's given me a gift, shouldn't I be doing my best to make it live and be fruitful? I think it is. So now I have a bunch of tomatoes that I've transplanted into bigger pots. So this week, as he finishes on the chicken coop, I will be working on cleaning out some other areas that we'll be able to grow those tomatoes. And I'm also going to be growing some other things. Now, has everything been a success so far? No. And that's why I felt better when I listened to Danny this morning, because my potatoes did not do well. My first batch of potatoes did not do well. And then I learned after listening to a few, I should have left them another 2 weeks in the ground, because I guess it needs to be processed even though everything was over, the flowers were in. And I could totally be wrong on this. But why could I be wrong? Because this is the first time. I'm learning. 61 years old. I'm still learning. And that's what I find exciting. I think when we're done learning, when we're done serving, when all our energy that God has given us is exhausted, that's when He takes us home and said, "You've done well, my good servant." That's my hope. Life is interesting. I see challenges with a variety of things. And, if I bring it back to my grandson, disappointed, thinking his grandfather wasn't here, think of all of us when we struggle and we have hardships. We think God isn't there. Trust me, God's been there, even through our worst. When I was so sick and all I did was spend time on the couch, God was still there. Didn't understand? Doesn't matter. And even though, like this morning, I woke up and I am in so much pain. The tennis elbow is killing me. The pain's down into my fingers. I got pain in my feet. And yes, I'm taking my turmeric capsules. And I'm putting ointment on. But it's just a reminder to me that you can get through this. And God will see me through. But I got to get this other stuff done, because when we use legitimate excuses that I can't get this done, then the work doesn't get done. Now, after I get done doing all that I am over there, after I harvest, I think I'm harvesting my celery today. That's kind of cool. I wanted it for salads and stuff, but I think this batch I'm going to just, all I have is a dehydrator, but I will dehydrate and I will make so that I can use it in soups. And yesterday when my daughter was here, I asked her, I said, "Do you want celery to munch on?" She goes, "No, I use it mostly for in my soups." So I have a lot of it. So I thought, she would be thrilled, because I said, "Oh, I can dry some of that, and you can have." She goes, "You can dry celery?" That's something that we all need to be aware of. If you're following me for ideas, just be open to, if you've got something, how do you think celery salt came onto the shelves? I use celery salt in a potato salad, or if I make, my husband doesn't ask for macaroni salad much because I can't eat it, but if we make stuff like that where it calls for celery salt, or if we just want to put it in there, even egg salad sandwiches and stuff like that, they keep, it doesn't grow like a salt lick or anything. No, you create it with the celery greens. So I'm going to do two things with these stalks of celery. First of all, it's going to give me a little bit more room. Not tons, but it's going to give me a little more room. And I can start some new ones, but I can also make celery salt from the greens, and I'll start there, and then any greens that are left over I'll dry to go in a greens mix. I have kale, I have all kinds of greens that I dry, so that when I want to make a smoothie, or I want to make something just to have a little bit more nutrition, I just throw those greens in. I'll throw greens into a meatloaf. Don't tell my husband. He stopped asking me what I put in my stuff, because I do. It's like, what am I in the mood to add in? My kids learned years ago David took them camping, and the girls came home from camping. I thought, I'm going to make them some very healthy brownies. Well, in the brownie, I found a recipe to use zucchini. And you know, when you get zucchini growing, and back then I didn't have lots of vegetables I was growing, you just end up with too much zucchini, right? So I found something that was a zucchini brownie. You put it in there. Well, I learned my lesson. To make sure you grind up zucchini really fine. But what my girls learned was that they looked at it and said, Mom, there's something wrong with these brownies. I said, what do you mean? There's some green stuff in it. I said, really? Wonder how that could happen. So, and they know that even back then, they knew that I was always creative with my cooking. But after that experience, they'd ask, and to this day, they'll ask what you put in it. And yesterday, I was sharing some molasses cookies with my grandsons, who, by the way, they adored them. The youngest, 1 year old. I forgot to cut it in like 4 pieces. He had that thing in his mouth. He didn't care. He wanted more, too. But they didn't ask. My daughter wouldn't because she doesn't like molasses. And you know, that's okay. And she knew they were gluten-free, but she just... So it's just kind of interesting how we incorporate these things. So that's why I bring my dried greens and I make a dried powder. And I keep it so during the winter hours I have that. See, I think there's a lot of things that God gives us that we can use. And I know I'm going to go on a little bit without meaning to extend my time, so I will try not to go too long. What I wanted to share is that even though I still have a lot of work to do, I should probably call my orthopedic doctor. But I'm determined to get these things done. Every time I turn around, there's something more to do. And I am thankful I don't have this huge farm, even though my heart's desire is to have that. And even my husband wants that. We're getting up in years, but you know what? We're still young enough to work hard. And I think God has given me steps by step. We may be here the rest of our lives. Am I happy about that? I'm happy that God is watching over us. We're both kind of praying for God to lead us to where our next place is. We've been here for a long time. And a lot of people say, they say, but your yard's beautiful, all this stuff. Why would you want to move? Because it's time. First of all, he has a new job. It's a long distance to drive. Second of all, we just want more space. And there's other personal reasons that we've talked about that we want to do. And it's not worth sharing unless God deems it okay. I'm ready for you to make this next step. My husband and I were talking about the 3 talents that are in the Bible, where a farmer gave different amounts of talents to 3 of his servants. I believe one got 5, one got 3, and one got 1. And the first 2 invested it, and they came back and they got rewards. And we were talking about something else, but it transitioned into our gardens and what we're doing. And the chickens. And I explained to him, he was looking at financial, investing stocks or investing here. I said, I don't think that's exactly what God was sharing in that story. And it could be, if you're really good and you know what you're doing in the stock market. And of course, stocks go up and down. You will know that I'm not fond of the stock market. Why we couldn't keep a normal retirement is beyond me, but this is where we're at in the world. And I explained to him, I said, God gave me a gift to sow. Okay, so yes, we were talking about the garden, but I brought, because this was easier to explain. I said, God gave me the gift to sow. He gave me the insight to open a business. And I did really well. People suggested, why don't you take out a loan and you can do this? I said, no. I said, if God really wants me to do this business, then He's going to have to provide through my efforts and work. I have to work for it. As I earn, I will have the money to expand and get a new piece of equipment. And I remember those times because my husband just said, Laura, I said, I'm not borrowing a dime. I never did. So every piece of equipment I got was earned. When God gives us, whether it's a talent, a job, however He gifts us, our responsibility is to be a servant to Him through the gifts He's given us. And when I explained to him, this was my take on it. It wasn't about putting money in the bank to get interest. It was about investing us into what we do. Now, I don't work anymore. And I will share another story at another time about how someone wanted to hire me. And I'll do that at another time. Or maybe it'll come out here. Nope, I'm going to share it here. Yesterday, I got a message from somebody that wanted me to do a job for her. And I'm going to keep it brief. I can go into it another time. And she showed me what she had. She gave me instructions on how to do this. I've been sewing for just under 50 years. And okay, those first years I was learning. My sewing business was 22 years, but I had been sewing long before that. But she felt it was important to give me aid on how to do the job. And this was after I told her no. See, I say no to some jobs because it's just not worth the time. Or how much someone might say, well, you can do this in like a few minutes. I'm glad I never told any of my surgeons, this should only take you half an hour, right? Without taking into account every dynamic of what goes into having some surgery. We as a culture have lost sight of our value. But I haven't lost sight of my own. And so when she was telling me this, I said, no. I said, first off, it's not a job I will take on. And she asked me why. I said, I do not recommend that you do this. I said, it's not something I would recommend. Basically, she had made a crochet afghan. I think it was like the first time she's ever made one. And she was upset because all her threads were seen on the back. And so she stated that right on. I said, no, I don't think I want this job. And she wanted me to put a piece of fabric on the other side. And this is going to take me a couple of hours because I would hand sew it. And I was expected to provide the material. Well, if anybody knows material costs, it's like, I'm not weaving it in my backyard. And if I was, it'd be more. I didn't even give her a price because I chose not to, because it wasn't a job I wanted. She goes, well, I want to kind of cover this up because I think it's going to be too bulky. I said, it will still be too bulky. I said, what you need to do is just kind of keep learning, start a new one, and go forward. She didn't want to end it there. And that's when I got the instructions on how to fix it. And so finally, I said, this is not a job I would take on. And her response was, so you're saying no? I said, yes, I'm saying no. 24 hours later, she asked me, do you think this would do the job? It was a very inexpensive hand sewing machine. I don't have one of those. Are they worth the money? I don't know. I don't have one. And I never stand in judgment. I like what I have. I love what I worked hard for, and that's what I use. But what she wanted shouldn't be done on a machine, but I suppose it could be. So within a couple of hours, I'm on a crochet group on Facebook, and I saw that she posted there, asking, is anybody here in New Hampshire that's willing to do this? I've reached out to 2 others, and they refused to take the job on. I'm willing to pay up to $20, $25. And I looked at my husband, I said, and this is why I didn't take the job. Because when people communicate with us, they're telling us how much we're worth. When God communicates with us, He tells us what we're worth. He doesn't say that it won't be hard work. But He tells us that He will take care of us. So see, I have faith in God, not people. Did I want to help her? Yeah, that little heart patter of mine, I want to do a lot for people. But the one thing I have learned is that I need to take care of me and not be stressed. Because you know what? If this didn't come out the way she was hoping it would come out, do you know who she'd be angry at? She'd be mad at me. And she would have said, why didn't you tell me it wouldn't work? Trust me, people do this all the time. So, and I've gotten that once, a long time ago in the beginning of my business. And that's when I learned that I can be a really nice person, but I'm going to stay firm on what I know and learn from what I don't. And that's why I appreciate those I have followed with what I'm learning for the gardening. Now, I can grow herbs, I can grow flowers, and I can grow vegetables. Obviously, tomatoes. I still think it's funny. My poor husband, he's just, I gave a couple plants to my daughter yesterday. Had my grandson work with me, putting it into a bigger pot so they could take it home. And I don't know what God has in store for me with all these fruits and vegetables. He might want me to use some of it for bartering or selling. He knows our financial requirements. I am thankful for today. You know why? It's hot in the sun, but it's not a scorcher. My plants are not wilted over. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my husband, we went out this morning. We had to pick up his car that had to have some brake work done. But he drives an hour, so we needed him to have a safe car, and he didn't want to do it. But it's like, no. We have to do this expense, because if that's the vehicle you're going to drive, you need to be safe. So before we went to get it picked up, we went over because we need some chicken wire, and we decided on getting these chickens. They're going to work for us, but in order for them to work for us, we have to give them a home that is safe and secure. Now they're too little still to stay out on the overnight, because the temps went down to like 50 last night. I think I woke up around 4:30 and it was like 51 degrees. It's still too cold for the little guys. But they're going to work for us. And so my husband and I, we went and got some more chicken wire and some other type of wiring. We're going to be digging down. We're going to do everything that we possibly can within our means to keep them safe. Because even though we're in a suburban neighborhood, and we still get bears, fox, skunks, raccoons, not too many skunks, but they pass through, possums. I like the possums because they eat the ticks, right? But I haven't seen the possums as of late, because they used to walk by our bedroom window, making all kinds of racket as they brought the babies to follow. I used to get such a charge out of watching them. So we don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm thankful, because it's just a small piece of heaven here on earth that we get to enjoy. But to enjoy that, we have to work. And another side story today, my husband has not seen when I bring the chickens out, because they're in a tote, like a large tote type thing that was actually in his shop that he sacrificed for the babies. And we have a screen over it, otherwise they'd be roosting throughout the house. And so I bring it out. I told him, I said, come over here, watch this. They're so adorable, because I move it and they just hop out and they line up, and one by one they go into the smaller run that we have right now. And the smaller run is temporary. They love running out. And I've shared this before, I know. But don't you love running out after you've worked hard or you had to wait for something really special? When I got a new sewing machine, I was just so excited. And I have a new machine that I'm really excited about. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to get a treadle, antique treadle that worked and wasn't in ill repair. But here in New Hampshire, people are trying, or had been trying, to sell them like $400 or $500 and more. And the only ones I could find were ones that weren't working. So it wasn't worth it. I mean, they just weren't worth it, trust me. So we just made 2 sewing tables for myself from the tables, and even those weren't in the greatest condition, but they were fine. They weren't falling apart. They were just like the veneer was coming off. So he knows that I've been wanting a treadle. And so I was listening to Heidi from Rain Country. She's a hoot. She's a very resourceful person. You should check her out. She was sharing that she had a treadle. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's a Janome treadle. I was so excited. So I told my husband, I said, I have the funds for this. Now you got to remember, I'm not working right now. So I'm not bringing dollar bills into our budget. I find it stressful. But my husband is like, he knows that I'm doing good at balancing things. I let him know when we don't have the money. You gotta wait. Couldn't wait on the breaks, but so I said, I'd like to do this. He said, yeah. He goes, I like that. And that's when he said, I'm so proud of you, because that's a great investment. That's one of the best investments you've made recently. He's not saying I don't use my money wisely. What he's saying is he sees how it will benefit us if the grid goes down, if we don't have electricity, if my machine, sorry, a fly flew by. I didn't want to have protein like that today. If I need to make things for the house, or need to make something for somebody else in a barter situation or for income, at least I could still do it if the electricity is out. I'm excited. It's not all hooked up yet. We're getting the chicken coop done first. And if I've already shared this, I'm sorry it's repetitive. What I wanted to share is that I'm really excited about how much the chickens are growing. I'm excited by going to the store to get more wire for the chickens, asking questions like, all he saw were 50-yard pieces, and I said, that's not going to be enough. And my husband's not like me. I'm one to go and ask. Well, at this particular place, people were not helpful when he asked. So I went and got a manager, and I said, this is what I need. He goes, oh, they're out in the yard. And so we ended up, instead of a 50-yard one, we got a 150-yard one. And in comparison, the 50-yard one would have been $50. The 150 was like $109. This is how I'm very careful about how I spend my money. I look at where the balance is. Now, what if we end up with extra wire? What if we do? I would rather have a little extra to cover something up. You know, if we find a loose area, like today he's putting wire up where the roof goes down. We've got this here. So we'll put wire in there, but also boards in there. He wants to make sure that the raccoons and other creatures can't get into the coop. The coop's coming along. I should take the video over there and show you. He's not over there right now. His tools are over there. But we're working at it, and hopefully we'll have the yard for them built out. And we bought enough so that we could have a roof. Now, our neighbor doesn't have a roof. They don't have problems. But we see hawks. We've seen deer. And she says she doesn't understand why. Excuse me. A bear is what I meant to say. She goes, I don't know why we haven't had a bear. We have seen fox. We've seen coyotes. We've seen, you name it. Just because we're in suburbia doesn't mean we don't have those animals. And the reason is because they keep building. That's the other reason we want to move. You get so crowded. The wildlife, this was their home. Why are people so upset when these creatures come into our properties? This was their home. Sort of like the Indians when we came over from England. You can't kick people out of their natural habitat. We can share. But to kick out and make new rules upon them doesn't make sense. So I know Danny and Wanda are having a hard time with their crops. The weather's not being very kind. They're getting some good crops. But some of the things that they were so used to getting is not coming in for them. So my heart's breaking for them, and we're praying that God does some intervention for them. Because you know what? Everybody needs prayer. And the ones who are God-fearing, and I think I talked about God-fearing, we're not afraid of God. We just believe that He has a purpose for us. Now, I can't speak for Danny, but I can speak for my husband and I. Why we can't retire today, why we can't do stuff, we no longer ask that question. Well, sometimes we ask. But we don't get mudded down into being discouraged that it doesn't happen. We want to. But once I realized that, okay, this isn't going to happen to us this year. We had hoped to move last year. Didn't happen. And because of the housing situation, it's like people outbidding like hundreds of $1,000s over the value of the home. People, you're nuts. And if you did that and you're insulted that I said that, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to say, this is truth. And a lot of people took out flexible mortgages. We were offered that when we bought our house. And they said, you'll get a better interest rate, you'll do that. I said, no. They said, but why? I said, what if the market goes up and the interest rates go crazy? Well, most often they're going down. I said, they go down for a certain amount of time, then they have to go back up. That's just the way our world is. And we don't see our savings accounts making money anymore like we did when we were little kids. There's nothing motivating anybody to save money, and I think that's why people are just spending, you know? Well, we can't grow it. Why not just spend it and enjoy it? So if you're offended that I said something about that you overspent for your house, I don't blame you totally, because I think real estate's agents, they're sneaky. They will tell you that you need to bid on it now or else you're going to lose it. You know, if God wants us to have something, it's going to happen. And we were not going to overpay on anything. I'm looking over at the chicks right now in their roost. We put a pole on there. and they're perched up there. And we knew that they would love that. So my husband's getting back over there. He doesn't like me to have him in the videos unless he's prepared for it. So I'm not going to go over there. But I want you to be thankful for what you have today, even if it's an extra tomato plant. My husband's not going to live this one down. Even if your weeds turn into herbs. I'm getting a lot of weeds I've never seen before. I look them up. I'm going to be using those for medicine. One thing I know is that when, and you can research this, when times are tough or when you are in need of different medicinal things, it enters your life. Somehow you discover it. It might not be in your yard. It might be somewhere down the road. All you have to do is ask your neighbor, do you mind if I take a clipping of this? We ended up, I'm trying to think of the root that I needed. Forgot. It was for Lyme disease. But right now, a neighbor had a yard sale and she wanted to get rid of some plants that she had to divide. So I've got feverfew. I've got yarrow. I've got, sorry, I can't think of the whole list. But I've got these now. I went and I paid her. Probably paid her more than my husband says, they were only $2 on each of these. How much did you spend? I did. I ended up giving her a little more. But I didn't regret it because I appreciated those herbs far more than the average person might appreciate them. And they were already well established, so I could plant them right into the ground. We need to give value to others, whether it's an exchange, or whether it's when we pay, or when we're in the company of others. We need to value each other's, what they have to offer this world. Not what we can take from them, but what we can give back. So he sneaked away because I think he's getting apart. I want to share a little bit of how the coop is looking, if you don't mind. And then I'll finish up here. I know I'm running a little late. Sorry, to get out of this rocker is not the easiest thing. Here we're going into sunshine. Hold on. I love this. It's so pretty out here. I can't believe how much grapes we have over there. But so here is, this is our coop. That window there, my husband was in our shed. Our shed burnt down about 10, 12, 15 years ago. Our shed burnt down. And so we lost a lot of things. But that window that's in the coop, that was a window that he went in there and he found. He goes, do you mind if I use it? I said, no, because I want the birds to have light. So, as you can see, this is what our coop looks like. It's not a clubhouse for me. And so this is the door that I'll have so I can go in there and collect the eggs. He still has to make their nesting box and he has to put a place for them to roost. And then back here, and this is what he's tightening up, is up along the roof area. But they'll have a nice little play yard. I don't know if you can see that. And we're going to wire it up underneath here so that when they come out of their coop, which will be on this side, because the other side's going to be totally fenced in. So what we've done, they're going to be into my grapevines, I'm sure. So we'll come over here as well. We'll be entered, and they can come out this way. And we still have to create stairways down for them. So it'll come out, and we've got some grape here. It's taken us years for the grapes to come along. Last year I got 4, and this year it looks like we might have some of it died back because it was all tangled up in the trees, and we had to cut some things back, so I'm not sure what we're going to get. But it's not the grapes that we get in the grocery store for enjoyment. It'll be more so for probably making the wine for medicine purposes, because I make my own tinctures. Because neither my husband and I we don't drink. And so I'm making some mead and stuff like that, which I learned from Heidi. And I'm grateful because it's just stuff that I can use with what I have from roses and other and I'm making my own vinegar and stuff too. So, but I don't know if you can see, but over here, yeah, you can. That's a little bit of the compost area. We come back here, let me see. But this is our garden shed, and it's not tight, so I won't be able to put any of the chicken stuff in there like I asked him earlier today. But back there, we had some raised beds, and they didn't do as good as I wanted. So we just have this compost here, and then that's where I've gotten a lot of my soil. We've been cutting back on the other one where we had plants. So we still have plenty of dirt for me to work with that we can rototill into the yard. And I'm really grateful for what we do have. So we're making the best of every square inch that we have. And I think God is going to bless it because He gave me tomatoes. I don't mean to overshare that, but it's kind of comical if you think about it. So these are our girls. We just got 4 of them. And hey, ladies, how you doing? How you doing, ladies? So we have them, and we take them in. So for those of you who think that we're not taking really good care of them, we truly are. We bring them out on nice weather when it's like at least 70 to 74 degrees. And we bring them in, and if it's overcast or rainy, they do not come out. And we had them in the house for like 3 days. They were okay, but they get kind of claustrophobic is what I would consider it. And that's understandable because they're used to being outside now that we've brought them out for a few weeks. But they like it out here. And I think that's pretty cool because we know that they're going to be excited when they have their own place, their own play field and so forth. But for now, we keep them in the house until they get more feathers, and we know that they're still shedding some feathers because they get little furry tufts or feathery tufts. Now, a lot of people think that we're new to this. We are. We're new to it in the sense that the last time we had chickens, it was in Maine, and we didn't have, my husband ended up getting a job in New Hampshire, and this is where we've been. So we started out, we had 25 chickens, we had 4 turkeys, we had about 6 or 8 ducks, we had a goat, and we had a pig. The pig was from my father. He felt that I needed more for the farm. But we had to move, so we had to take care of a few things. So we never got eggs. We ended up with duck meat, chicken. One of the turkeys got sick, so we ended up with 1 turkey, and we got back together with one of our old neighbors who helped us with the chickens. We gave them half the chickens to help us prepare the other chickens for food. And then our pig, we had it stay at their house, and we came up for Thanksgiving. We were going to have it cut up as well. But that was such a friendly pig. That'll be for another story, farm story. But anyways, so we've had some experience. But we're learning because we never got to the point of having like a winter coop made at that point. We got him like in the spring, and he ended up getting a job early fall, late summer, early fall. So we didn't get to the coop stage at that point. But we're doing the coop stage now, so they don't have to stay in my house. But yeah, we had him in our house at that point, and it was a bigger house than we have now. And so there was a little bit of extra room. But anyways, this is going on longer than I am planned, but I just want people to know that we are here to serve God. Sometimes we're here to serve each other. And I like how Danny put it today. Yes, we are Christian believers, and we are to love one another. But that does not mean we turn our cheek to those who hurt us. Most especially those who are not believers in Christ themselves. Does that mean I won't do for others? No, that's not true. What it means is we have to know the value that God has in us, and we serve Him first. And that's who I serve first. I serve God first, my husband second, my family next, and then all others. And whether you're a Christian or not, how I serve you kind of reflects on how you have treated me and how you've served in return. Now, I don't do anything with anything in expectation. But you have to admit, if somebody treats you bad, it's really kind of hard to do something nice, isn't it? You know, I see myself sort of like a chicken. Not afraid. These chickens are not afraid of nothing. They'll peck at anybody. We're learning every day on how to survive. They cuddle together at night to stay warm, so they're working together. When they find food, the others follow suit and run after it. Like if a bug happens through, they all tear that thing apart. And they all defend each other. Like when I go in to grab one to take it out to bring them in the house, they do not like this. Although they will run away, they get really loud to kind of protect themselves. I'm grateful. And that's what I wanted to kind of come on and say. I've got tons of work to do. And my husband is working on the coop. I've got the garden work, and I've got some dehydrating, and I got some sewing work I really need to get to. So I'm just grateful for this beautiful day. And I'm thankful that I have water in our water barrels today so that I can water the plants as needed. And I've got some things I can harvest. So do what you can. Don't be afraid of what's out there. Stay strong. We all know something's coming around the corner. Every day there's something new. This is not to fearmonger. This is to remind you to keep your faith, work hard, and look straight ahead. Don't turn back. If you want to know what turning back does, look back at Sodom and Gomorrah. I've shared that story. Don't become a pillar of salt. Become a pillar of hope. Be strong in your faith and work hard. I hope everybody has a great day. I truly, truly do. And as you can see, well, I've pulled my hair back, so maybe you can't see the wind blowing through my tufts that are coming underneath my hat. But we have a cool breeze, so that'll make the job a little bit easier. And I know my husband's going to need some of my help with the chicken coop, but until he does, I need to get some work done. So I gotta stop my chattering. That's what I do, and I gotta get better at this. Have a great day. Know that God loves you. God bless you.